James Corden is coming under fire right now after some of his employees have alleged that the late-night host demanded a $5 million raise. The National Enquirer first reported on this rumor that James had wanted a huge pay increase but had no plans of sharing any of that wealth with his hardworking staff. An inside source alleged he's trying to get more money for himself but doing nothing to make the show a happier place to work. While James puts himself out there as Mr. Nice Guy on camera, he is rarely warm or even kind to his staff. And I mean, it looks like we may have another Ellen story on our hands. Staff members have also described Corden as being a true diva who loves to work. Another insider added, "People love working for Jimmy Kimmel, but it's a different story at Corden's show, where there always seems to be the threat that he's looking for something better. To say he isn't well liked is an understatement. He likes to pit his most talented people against each other. He seems to get a kick out of seeing people squirm." Now, for starters, there are a lot of claims going on here from these insiders, if you will. As for the $5 million raise, there isn't much evidence to suggest that this is actually true. I mean, most salary negotiations are kept confidential, and even if it was leaked, you would expect to see some, larger media outlets covering this story first. However, all I could find right now were gossip blogs that clearly do not like James Corden to begin with, which makes it that much easier for them to talk trash about the late night host. That being said, this isn't the first time that a rumor has circulated accusing James of being either distant, cold, or aloof with his staff. But the truth of the matter is, most celebrities have this reputation. Rarely are celebrities the bubbly personality that we see them portraying on television or in movies. I also couldn't find much evidence of Corden's staffers actually complaining about him publicly. So again, these gossip blogs are perhaps just using the word insider as a way of getting their own opinions on James out there. You see, if you claim that it's from someone that has worked with him, that obviously would apply more legitimacy to the story. However, until more people speak about this publicly, I would take these stories with a grain of salt. Recently, James had to put the Late Late Show on pause after he posted to Instagram that he had contracted COVID-19. In a post, James writes, "I just tested positive for COVID. I'm fully vaccinated, boosted, and because of this, am fortunate enough to say I feel completely fine. The show will be off the air for the next few days. Stay safe, everyone. All my love, James." Now, admittedly, I am not a huge fan of James Corden, but when I found out that he got I didn't jump for joy. I was blown away by the number of people on Twitter that were actually happy to see James get sick with this. We should not be wishing illness on people. That is not the right energy to be entering into 2022 with. Like I always say, if you don't like someone, you don't have to watch their content. That's pretty much it. You can just move on to something else. I mean, to take it to that next step though of celebrating someone getting sick with really messed up. Coming number 10, fake driving. Once transitioning from comedic actor to late night host, James had to come up with some new games that would keep his audience interested. The whole idea behind carpool karaoke was that James and any special celebrity guests were going to sing while driving. It's a simple concept, but something that is at the very least relatable to most audiences, other than having a giant celebrity in your passenger seat, that is. Well, it turns out that the whole thing is a sham and a cheap way to trick their own audience. A tweet went viral showing that James Corden doesn't actually drive the vehicle during the show, but rather has it being pulled around on a trailer. In at number 9, early fame. James Corden revealed that he had to have therapy to stop being a brat after he became intoxicated by fame. Even as Gavin and Stacey co-star Rob Brydon had to step in and tell him off for his rude behavior while on set. Rob recalled saying, "Look, this is a bit awkward to say, but I'm just hearing these things about you and you've got to know that the way you behave has an effect on people." Corden's sisters also intervened according to his mother, and they would come in and say to James, "Don't be a d***head," which is bizarre because the whole reason he wrote this show for himself really is because he was sick and tired of people being rude to him about his own weight. In number 8, against his writers. When James Corden decided to do an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, it could not have backfired any worse. One of his producers named Jack Allison had made a tweet in regards to how poorly James had treated his writing staff, which was included in the litany of complaints made against the host. Jack tweeted, "I'd like to state once again for the record that I went to a WGA meeting for only late night writers, and James Corden showed up without any of his staffers to advocate for a lower pay grade for late night writers." Now, James tried to refute his points, but honestly his Twitter replies aren't even worth sharing. He basically called his own producer a liar and stated that he cared about his writers while simultaneously arguing for lower pay at the Writers Guild of America meeting. In at number 7, Fight Club. Even though James Corden had an excellent opportunity to chat with Edward Norton, he ruined that chance by trying to do some weak comedic version of Fight Club, using his own writing staff. Right from the start you can tell that Ed doesn't want any part of this, and why would he? Fight Club was a great film, but it's one of the many that the actor had been a part of. Plus he was just really really there to try to promote a new movie, so why waste time on something like this? Although James still isn't getting it until Norton tells him that there are better ways of expressing masculinity. All the guy wanted to do was talk about his film Motherless Brooklyn, which he not only starred in but also directed and wrote, but no, James just wanted a stupid Fight Club parody sketch. In at number 6, unrelatable. James Corden decided it was his duty to stand up for every overweight person in the world and defending their right to eat when Bill Maher said that we should bring back fat shaming. Judging by the way Corden responded to this clip, you would think that Bill called him out specifically. He didn't though. James is just that easily offended and has a bigger platform to cry on. The point Bill was trying to make was a comedic one that just missed the mark, but he was emphasizing that America needed to bring back shame. James tried to make this his champion moment of being the king of all that is good in this world, but started to lose people when he continuously made it about himself. He kept saying, "This hurt me because I wanted to be in movie roles but was too out of shape." His remarks hurt me because I was never accepted by society, but there he is sitting behind a late night show desk, no problem. Also, in my humble opinion, if he didn't feel some shame about the way that he looked, James would have never been motivated enough to try to create his own show, Gavin and Stacey, which, as I mentioned earlier, was the basis for that show. He's trying too hard to be a fake idol by making his audience believe that he's offended by remarks that really had nothing to do with him. In number 5, distracted hosting. While hosting the Glamour Woman of the Year awards, James got himself into a now infamous argument with Patrick Stewart. Apparently, while hosting, he looked completely disinterested, and many felt that he gave off an attitude like he was better than the event. Plus, while recipients were accepting their awards, there was James just standing off to the side texting during a live awards show. So when Patrick Stewart came on stage, he decided to confront James over his rude behavior, but because some people hadn't noticed what James was doing, Patrick seemed to be the rude one in this interaction. Although in retrospect, he was a hero ahead of his time. Take a look at this awkward exchange and keep in mind that this was 10 years ago.
Go on. No, seriously, go on.
Okay.
No, go on. You can see my belly, and we can all see you dying right now. Let's go for it. Here we go.
Patrick was simply trying to tell James not to text while people are accepting their awards, and instead of apologizing, he got in Patrick Stewart's face. Like, what was he gonna do? Fight him? Because he asked you to have some common sense? This was a strange one for sure. In number 4, political wedding. While filming a segment on his show called Fill Your Guts, James was asked a very specific question about what happened when he saw Ivanka Trump at a wedding. James admitted that he was very drunk and continuously harassed the president's daughter at this wedding. He repeatedly told her that she needs to do something, which isn't exactly the place nor the time. Plus, who does James Corden think he is? He wasn't born in America. He came there to make more money, so why does he feel the entitlement to trash the country that accepted him? Plus, harassing the president's daughter while at a wedding is perhaps the biggest indicator that James has no self-awareness. In number 3, shameful behavior. Right around the same time that people like Rose McGowan and other accusers started stepping up and calling out Harvey Weinstein, James thought it would be fun to just joke about it. Due to James Corden being a comedic actor and not a stand-up comedian, his jokes had absolutely no legs or timing. As a result, the audience mostly groaned uncomfortably about the extremely graphic and too soon material that was clearly not well suited for a charity event. After the immense backlash, James tweeted, "To be clear, SA is no laughing matter. I was not trying to make light of Harvey's inexcusable behavior," adding, "But to shame him, the abusers, not his victims. I am truly sorry for anyone offended. That was never my intention." Oh, so now shaming is okay just as long as it's not happening to you. Got it. The Italian actor Asia Argento, who alleges that Weinstein essayed her when she was only 21, tweeted a video of Corden's joke and added the caption, "Shame on this pig and everyone who grunted with him." Last but certainly not least on our number 1 spot, Happy Mother's Day. Then there was this crazy airplane story involving a woman and a baby. There's for sure no way to verify whether or not the story is true, but it does seem pretty much in line with what others have said about the late night show host. Apparently a woman with her crying baby was sitting next to James Corden on a flight, but to many people's surprise, James didn't complain at all. He simply put on his noise cancelling headphones and pulled a mask over his eyes, then turned away from the woman to sleep. However, when the plane landed, Corden remained in his seat as the woman with the baby struggled to open her overhead compartment. What makes this story even worse is that the woman then turned to James and asked him to at least hold the baby while she was getting the bags down. That woman was his wife, and that baby was his baby. Again, just rumors, just rumors.
James Corden just messed with the wrong fan base, and he is now getting cancelled because of it, along with the Google rating for his show plunging to 1.2 stars out of 5. I'm Mackenzie, and let's get into the details. Also, make sure to subscribe if you're new here. If you didn't already know, K-pop group BTS has the most loyal fan base in the world, and they call themselves ARMY. And if you've been on Twitter for more than 5 minutes, I'm confident that you've seen a BTS fan cam at some point. So everyone in the industry knows not to say anything bad about BTS, or you will be sorry. That's been the case with the host of The Late Late Show, James Corden, after he mocked BTS's fan base. On the September 20th episode of his show, Corden made a point to speak about the group's attendance at the United Nations General Assembly that's currently taking place in New York City. The UN General Debate opened with a pre-recorded performance from the band, who then delivered a speech where they spoke about sustainable development, which is obviously a very high honor. But James Corden decided to mock their speech on his show, saying that the UN kicked off that morning and there was some quote, pretty unusual visitors, referring to BTS. Then he added that the UN had no choice but to take them seriously and complimented the group on having one of the largest fan bases in the world. But then he got in trouble when he added, quote, historic moment, it actually marks the first time that 15-year-old girls everywhere found themselves wishing that they were Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Basically mocking the fact that the group's fan base consists of teenage girls. But of course the BTS fanbase did not take this lightly, and they shared their disappointment on Twitter. One tweet read, quote, as a teenage girl myself, I just want to take a moment to say, leave us alone. Stop using my gender and age as a way of mocking other people and what they do. Another user pointed out that in the wake of the comments, the Google ratings for Corden's talk show had dropped from 4.2 to 2.6. And obviously the army is responsible. As of now, the show's rating has dropped even further, and it's currently sitting at 1.2. Although there were some fans that actually tried to defend Corden. This fan wrote a long Notes app essay breaking down his comments and trying to give Corden the benefit of the doubt so the army would stop attacking him, but the fans did not appreciate this and said that Corden should have done a better job at choosing his words wisely. The Twitter page for The Late Late Show has since taken down the video featuring the controversial comments, but obviously the army had already screen recorded it, and taking down the clip is not going to stop the hate train. I did also want to note that this is not the first time the group has appeared at the UN, and in 2018 BTS visited the UN to help UNICEF promote Generation Unlimited, which is a campaign dedicated to educating young people. So even though Corden claimed it was unusual, it's actually not unusual for the group to use their influence for the good of the world, and that is why we stand Do Not Come For Me BTS Army. I like them a lot.
Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about James Corden and how it seems that nobody really likes him very much. He's probably best known for constantly appearing in movies and musicals like the Emoji Movie, the Cats film adaptation, and the Cinderella remake, and usually playing a comedic relief character that most people view as a total flop or cringe. The Late Late host is stepping down from his show, and it seems that people in the UK are worried about the fact that he is going to be moving from the United States back to Europe. They are so worried about it, in fact, that one person created a petition in an attempt to ban him from returning to the country. Change.org is a website where anyone can make a petition about just about anything. Some notable weird petitions that have been made on the website are ban the word moist, change the name of fire ants to spicy boys, ask President Obama to build a Death Star, and merge North Dakota and South Dakota into a new state called Megakota. So yeah, there is a lot of unique and bizarre petitions on this site. The one we're talking about today is called James Corden to Stay in the US. The description of the petition reads as follows. 8 years ago, James Corden left the UK for the US to work on The Late Late Show. Since then, we've had to collectively deal with the impact of the Tory government, Brexit, and COVID-19, but throughout there was that slight beacon of hope, the absence of James Corden. Though I will note they included a harsh and vulgar description of James. Look up the petition for yourself if you're curious about their colorful wording. It continued, but now he's leaving The Late Late Show and is returning to our British pastures. So I beg you, if you do one thing today, please, I implore you to sign this petition. The main reason for exiling him was listed as there not being enough cringe in this small country for him to induce. An alternative option other than just keeping him in the United States is to send him to an isolated island in Scotland to live on his own. And it's not just the maker of the petition that feels this way. way, as people in the comments appear to be in support of the cause. One commenter said, "Come on folks, he's used the USA and now he wants to return here and get some prime TV slot telling us all how brave, ginge and whinge we are. Well, I for one don't need that." And another added, "Of all the issues we've endured over the past years, this one hits home the most." This also isn't the first time that James Corden has been the center of a petition. Due to his frequent appearances in musicals, a petition was created to ban the host from appearing in the Wicked adaptation. How many people signed this petition, you might ask? It was over 100,000. Yeah, clearly Corden doesn't really have the greatest reputation these days. Commenters on that specific movement saying things like, "James Corden is the worst and ruins every movie musical he's in. I'm literally begging, don't let him anywhere near Wicked." And "He's awesome as a talk show host. He is funny when the occasion calls for it. But Corden just plays himself when it comes to acting. In fact, he has no acting skills whatsoever. He ruined the Cats movie, so please keep him away from Wicked." In my opinion, the Cats movie existing ruined the Cats movie, but the sentiment still stands. Another reason people might have for wanting to keep James Corden out of their country is due to an announcement he made a few months ago about the fact that he only washes his hair every 2 months. When people in Los Angeles were being asked to cut down the time of their showers due to a water shortage, Corden said, "I'm in and out in 3 or 4 minutes. I use soap but I don't wash my hair. I wash it every 2 months. That is a true story. I do not think we are nasty." While it was recommended to take shorter showers, most people in the area still averaged around 10 minutes per shower. He said, "What are you doing for 10 minutes? How long does it take? I'm trying to think what I would do in there for 10 minutes. I don't know, James, maybe wash yourself?" He's not the only celebrity to ever admit to having less than average hygiene practices. Jake Gyllenhaal famously went viral for saying that he doesn't find bathing that important and finds himself doing it less and less. I guess when you're famous, you don't worry as much about how you smell. With 1 season left of The Late Late Show before James Corden steps down and returns to the UK with his family, it'll be a while before we see if anyone actually tries to stop him from getting in.